You're watching Fugitive Redeye, and welcome to another episode of Redeye Recommends. Today I'll be talking about what I'm gonna call horror channels. I guess you could also call them paranormal channels, or just kind of spooky channels in general. So, they're in no particular order as per usual, but I'm gonna go ahead and start with William DeFalco, which I'm not sure why the channel's called that, because the guy himself is named Fernando. But he does a lot of like urban legend videos and a lot of true crime, mysterious disappearances. He does videos talking about a variety of topics like that. I will admit at times I kind of tune out on some of his videos because, he doesn't really have a ton of production to it. It's just him talking over it. But for the most part, I enjoy his videos. And he talks about a lot of obscure cryptids and things I've never heard of. And that's why I like him. He also does a lot of stuff where he talks about Godzilla. He hasn't done that in a minute, but he likes a lot of Godzilla movies and talks about them too. But yeah, William DeFalco, fun stuff. He does a lot of the, cryptids and mysterious disappearances and stuff like that. Next up we have These Myths. Now These Myths does a lot of the same thing. He doesn't actually talk in his videos. In fact, I can't even confirm whether or not it's a guy. It's just text on screen with creepy music and atmospheric stuff. It works really well, actually. The problem is, These Myths doesn't do a lot of fact-checking, whereas I feel like Fernando is more likely to do so. So a lot of stuff with These Myths you gotta take with a super grain of salt. Like, he makes it clear at the beginning of all his videos that they're for entertainment purposes, but his most recent video is one that kind of disappointed me. It was about Siren Head, which, if you don't know, is I think it's like an SCP, and it was created by this guy named Trevor Hernandez, or Henderson or something like that. I don't know. Some guy on Instagram. I found that out because of the comments on the video. And then I looked it up on a wiki. Specifically, the Villains wiki is the one that I saw. And the text in that wiki was literally copy and pasted into his video. And that kind of pissed me off. Like, he literally just copy and pasted stuff out of a wiki, but intentionally left out the stuff about it being a fictional character. But despite how disingenuous that particular video is, a lot of his videos are still very enjoyable. And he did eventually credit the creator of this SCP in the comments, in his description below. But it's still titled, Real Life Urban Legend, which it's not an urban legend, it's an SCP, which is like, I think, like kind of like an alternate reality game. I'm not as familiar with SCPs, but point is, people know it's fictional. It's not like some piece of folklore that's been passed around. These Myths also does video game myths, so, like Ratman in GTA 4, or like Bigfoot in every other GTA game. I tend to prefer his Real Life Urban Legends series, but again, this latest episode, it was really cool before I read the comments and saw what it was. Because as a creature, it's scary. I like it. It's a creepy creation. Props to the guy who made it. But in fairness, I mean, a lot of people did the same thing with Slender Man back in the day, back in like 2012, so it's not like this is the first time something that was, like, created online has been presented as real. But it just kind of pissed me off that a channel that I respect and watch quite a bit would go and say, oh, there were sightings as early as 1966, which apparently those sightings are literally just part of the fictional backstory the guy made up for this character. But despite that, These Myths is still a very entertaining channel, and I'd still highly recommend checking him out. Because after all, it's still fun. Like, if I hadn't read those comments, I still would have been like, oh, that's really cool, that's kind of creepy. Like, granted, I'm glad I read those comments, because it showed, just kind of how disingenuous this particular video was. But, there's all sorts of urban legends, and creepypastas in their own right have kind of become urban legends, too, so it's like, it's hard to say. Like, I mean, obviously, they're completely fictitious, and most urban legends probably are, too, but I like to think of urban legends as being theoretically based more in fact, supposedly. Anyway, enough about These Myths. Great channel. Just, the latest video kind of pissed me off, but great channel otherwise. Other than that, the next one we're going to talk about is Shrouded Hand. Now, Shrouded Hand is one that actually I feel did kind of the opposite. Like, he started out kind of making very obviously fake type videos talking about bullshit that very clearly wasn't true, and has transitioned from that to talking about real stuff. And I really like that, because Shrouded Hand, I remember I started watching him back in, like, I don't know, 2015, and he was doing all these videos about, like, creepy pictures online, and, like, 99% of them were very obviously photoshopped. And he'd do, like, ghosts caught on tape, and again, it was very clearly fake stuff. But then later on, he started doing creepy audio recordings, which are actually real, or at least more believable. He's also started doing. He actually narrates his videos now. He didn't used to do that. He used to just have on-screen text, much like These Myths does. But now he narrates his videos, and I find his videos great now. Like, he talks about real phenomena, like coffin births, which I didn't know about, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's like if a pregnant woman dies, sometimes the baby will shoot out in the coffin. It's fucking nuts. I never knew that was a thing. In addition to that, he's also done stuff on, like, true crimes, like the murder of Junko Furuta, or there was another girl that was murdered in a very similar way. I can't remember her name. I apologize for that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Her death was particularly brutal, too. I just can't remember her name right off the top of my head. I think Junko Furuta is just more well-known to me, probably just because there was a movie made of it, and I'm more familiar with it that way. But he's also done videos covering urban legends and stuff, too. Like, all three of these channels have covered urban legends and stuff like that, and I enjoy them for that reason. But I like Shrouded Hand because he does actually now do a lot of actual things that are confirmed to be true. And he'll talk about strange phenomena, you know, birth defects, torture methods, strange shit that happens, you know, true crime. And to end off with, we'll talk about one that I feel is kind of the king of horror channels, although he doesn't do as much as he used to, and that's Rob Gavigan, formerly known as Rob Dyke, but he actually legally changed his name, just because Dyke kind of has connotations now, because of, you know, because of dykes. But no, I'm just kidding. But he I do respect the way he changed his name. He used the maiden name of one of his grandmothers, which didn't get passed on to anyone, so he's continuing a family lineage with Gavigan, so fair enough. But Rob Gavigan, great stuff. He's also done, like, comedy stuff, although he's kind of transitioned that to his new channel, although let's see how long that lasts, because he's had, like, 3 other channels he's tried to transition the comedy stuff to, but we'll see. But he does a lot of, like, true crime, you know, allegedly true ghost sighting stuff, you know. He does a series called Seriously Strange, which is great. And that has several sub-series, like Anatomy of Murder, also Serial Killer Files, and they're kind of the same thing. In fact, for a while, Anatomy of Murder took over for Serial Killer Files, but then he brought back Serial Killer Files, and now it's mostly just Anatomy of Murder. Point is, Seriously Strange has very many sub-series in it, too. And Rob's a really likable guy. And he does really good content. He talks about a lot of creepy shit, a lot of real crime, a lot of, you know, true stories that people tell, and it's interesting stuff. But yeah, I think that about does it for today. Rob Gavigan is probably the best out of these, but they're all good in their own rights. I'd say Shrouded Hand is probably a close second. But anyway, that's all I have for you today. Toodles.